today I want to tackle something that's been on my mind, and I think becoming a more important societal issue, and that is the power of social media and more particularly Facebook. So 2016, the Trump election thing happened, right? Where we realized for the first time how powerful social media is. And the Facebook news algorithm really shapes the perception that people have of the world around them. This is an extraordinary amount of power for one organization to hold or one product to possess over us. But the problem is that Facebook's algorithm is a black box. So every project really starts with what I call a problem observation statement. So everything starts with an observation. So my observation is that social networks are an extremely powerful force that shape our reality and understanding of the world, right? This is a big problem because we don't know how they work. Facebook is very not forthcoming with their proprietary algorithm. We don't know how they pick and choose, but one thing we can be certain of is that those algorithms are optimized to hold our attention as long as possible. So the way they make money is by keeping us on their platform. They want us there as long as possible. So they're going to serve as the content that they think we would be most addicted to, so to speak. So with that being said, I asked myself, well, what if we could somehow expose those parameters or bring some transparency to these algorithms and let users not only see how they're working and what they're being optimized on, but actually let the user tinker with the algorithm parameters and customize the newsfeed based on his or her preferences. So this is kind of where I'm at right now. Some history on Facebook is that initially the algorithm for the newsfeed presented posts reversed chronologically, meaning that if you logged in, you're going to see the first post that your friends posted today. Fast forward to 13 years later to today, and you're going to see that this is no longer the case. You might see a post from 2 weeks ago being the very first one you see in your timeline, followed by something that might be a day old, and there's no chronological order. So this actually kind of makes the algorithm more opaque to the public, meaning that you can't really understand how this thing is working. All you can be certain of is that they're certainly almost weaponizing your psychological profile against you to hold your attention span on the platform as long as possible. So with that being said, this is kind of like the rough jumping point for my projects. I start out with an observation and I try to imagine, okay, how can we solve this? So the next phase is really research. I start researching and reading as much literature I can about the product or the problem that already exists. In this case, it was Facebook. And at some point, I might jump and start sketching. So when this particular idea hit me, I think I was somewhere. I think I was traveling overseas or something. And I captured a really rough sketch really quick. So this is the jumping point for me. I almost had this vision of this mock-up here for a UI. So I kind of envision a panel that you could slide out and that has a radar graph. So this thing is actually a popular data visualization graph that displays multiple parameters. I'm not actually sure what they are yet, which is what I'm going to explore today. But this is kind of what I think the final solution might look like. So you can imagine as you're swiping these sliders here, the information on your newsfeed would be sorted or filtered accordingly. So, for example, so let me just jumpstart here. So I started doing some thinking and captured some notes. This is really like the brainstorming phase of a project. This is where I deep dive. I don't have too many constraints when I'm doing these things. I just kind of like free flow and I'm just kind of freestyling what comes to mind. So some of the things here that I captured, you can kind of see me visually thinking out loud, so to speak. Sketching is probably the most useful tool for me at this stage. This is currently what you're seeing is done on an iPad, but I definitely prefer pencil and paper or pen and paper sometimes. It's just what you have available at the time. So some of the dominant aspects of the algorithm, right, is that chronology certainly plays a part in how we consume information. Popularity is another interesting thing that we could sort information or posts by. Popularity, when it comes down to it, really comes down to three forms. You have likes, comments, or these new emotions or sentiments that Facebook has. So you could love a post, laugh at a post, wow, anger, or have the sad emoji. So as you can see, I'm kind of capturing here just parameters and different attributes of posts. Some of the other trains of thought that I have is when I think of Facebook information, I actually personally don't use it that much, but when I think of the way I use it, I think of people sharing two types essentially. You have personal, meaning what's going on in that person's life, family pictures, quotes about, updates about their personal situation. They moved to a new city, they've picked up a new job. Or you kind of have like worldview stuff, which is like which candidate I'm voting for. Excuse me. Expressing opinions on current events, talking about COVID-19 and what measures should be taken. So that's another kind of like dimension of the information people share. Next up is intimacy. So I have 500-600 friends on there. These are social contacts I've accumulated over, 13 years, 10 years. I'm not really that close with 98% of them, right? I'm sure that probably rings true for most people. So that's another interesting thing to play with, right? What if you can control the proximity or the closeness of the amount of information you can see? So maybe I can only filter for like first and immediate family members, followed by extended family, and then acquaintances, and then ex-coworkers, and etc. And I kind of took all this information and I mapped it out visually to kind of see what a social network, this is my personal conceptualization of what this looks like. So this is kind of how I think of it. I have first degree of closeness or intimacy, and these are my immediate friends, family, right? Spouse, etc. Second degree might be, acquaintances or, friends that are obviously not as close to you. And then third, fourth, and fifth are probably people that you haven't spoken to in the past year or so. So then I look at this graph and I ask myself, well, what happens when you go left to the graph and then right to the graph? And some of the thoughts that came to mind is opinion, right? Usually the closer you are to your first immediate circle, you tend to agree on whether it's politics, religion, sports. Most people tend to keep like-minded people around them, which is great in one regard, but it's actually a huge disservice for the variety of thought, right? You're not going to have a very diverse feed of ideas if everybody around you is posting the exact same things that you're thinking or that you already believe in. Another dimension here or spectrum is family and acquaintances, which I just covered. Frequency is probably another spectrum, meaning that you might see naturally more posts from family members and friends that are close to you as opposed to somebody you worked with 3 years ago. The Facebook algorithm definitely favors those that you're likely to interact with. So that kind of makes sense. And yeah, the last one is probably diversity. And I think this is a really big one because diversity this day and age is tough to come by because these social networks create these echo chambers. So you're likely to be paired up and exposed to ideas that you already agree with, right? If you see a post about your favorite football team, you're likely to hit thumbs up. That teaches the algorithm to feed you more information that's similar to it. So that actually kind of, it's like the self-perpetuating compounding effect where you end up with information that you like. That could be great to keep your attention, but I don't think that's great for society to formulate a different variety of opinions. So as you can see, this is just kind of still the brainstorming phase. I'm not sure what the final interface is going to look like. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. I'm sketching out loud. I'm trying to wrap my head around the problem. Also trying to find out what the solution could be. And in this case, the solution came to me before the problem, meaning that I already kind of envisioned a panel that the user might be able to pull up from the side and see the preset parameter, right? The Facebook thinks you would like. Then you can go a step further and tweak that parameter to vary that content that you're receiving and see different posts. So the next step for me would be to pull up a snapshot of Facebook. Now, this is the latest design that Facebook has. This is a new refresh that, from what I understand, isn't rolled out. I personally don't have it, but this is coming soon. Certain markets are already seeing this. So when I look at this, I see that Facebook is already kind of broken up into three major parts. And for those wondering, I'm using Figma, which is a design tool that's pretty industry standard this day and age. So at first glance, Facebook is broken up into 4 major sections, I guess. So first, you have the navigation bar up top. Then you have this other navigation that lets you go from events to videos, friends, etc. Some shortcuts down here. Here is what seems like is Messenger. And then obviously we have the Newsfeed. So one of my early breakthroughs with Rap Genius, for example, and this is something I picked up on, is that the challenge with speculative design is that you're imagining something that doesn't exist, and you're trying to explain it in pre-existing language to people. And I think some of the earlier mistakes I made was I would take these concepts and I would treat them as if they're a brand new product. And what I realized is that it doesn't resonate with people. Rap Genius, for example, I don't think I've ever shared this anywhere, but it was called Syllabuzz. I think that was the first name I came up with. And it was this presented as a brand new platform that doesn't exist anywhere. It was like at the 11th hour that I had this breakthrough to brand it Rap Genius, because Rap Genius is a platform that people already know and are familiar with. So when I tell you Rap Genius, you already know what to expect. Rap Genius is a website you go to for hip hop lyrics, right? So it already frames the user's mind in that context and primes them to receive the new concept as an extension of what they already know, as opposed to something that's brand new they've never encountered before. So for example, I could have served this panel, or I could serve this panel as a brand new concept for any social network, right? Or I could just go to something that already exists, that people are familiar with. They know how they work. They know how Facebook works, and frame it as a Facebook feature. Now, not only does that give you advantage to breaking down the communication barrier with your users, but the other cool thing is that actual people from Facebook might see this. They might see the concept and then reach out to you. I've had this happen with Rap Genius. I talked to them. They reached out to me. I talked to somebody at Spotify as well from another concept. So that's like a double positive here. Not only are people going to understand it better, but you might actually create networking opportunities for yourself by by branding your concept as a redesign or a speculative design feature for something that already exists. So the next step is I might actually, get rid of these here. And I'm kind of just making this up as I go along. But the next step might be to go ahead and create an artboard around this and kind of mock up a quick panel just to see what I have to work with. Cool. So you can see Facebook has this user interface language of cards, which is extremely popular, right? So that looks about right to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another card here, and possibly I might have an option here that says tweak your newsfeed algorithm or something of the sort, where the user clicks it, and when they click it, this is going to slide from left to right. Whenever they're done, they click done, and this kind of disappears away. So I'm going to go ahead and try that interaction right now. So first thing first, let's try to mimic this card here. So just let me start from scratch. And pardon my voice. So let's go ahead and try to mimic this card. We're going to get a little rectangle. So it looks like the edges are probably like a 4 radius. We'll leave it at 4. We'll match the color, and it looks like they have a little bit of a drop shadow. I would say 2 on the y-axis with a minimal blur. So we're gonna go ahead and click Effects, go to the drop shadow settings, hit the y-axis with a 2, actually maybe even less. Let's bring the blur down. Shit, maybe the y is at 1. Okay, let's try this. Match, try to see if we can get the colors to match. Okay, the y could be a 2. The blur could be a 2. Doesn't have to be perfect, just close enough, I suppose. Okay, so this is close. Okay, the blur is I'm gonna bump it up a little bit. Let's do a 3. Cool. So I'm gonna lock the background image and so I want this to come actually 100%, no gaps. I'm gonna line it up with this button. I'm gonna try this. Cool. We can tweak it a little bit later. Get rid of these around the corners. All right, cool. So I might just start with the star, the interface, which is this pentagon here, which houses the user profile. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a little pentagon here. All right, go with my pencil, get rid of these. All right, cool. So this is what we're working with. Let's see if this makes sense. Let's add a little stroke. Cool, this looks good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna duplicate this, send it back, and then just scale it up a little bit, just like this. 1, 2, we're gonna do the same. Send it back. Ooh. I'd love to have music on here, but I don't know if YouTube might pull it down for copyright, but we got Jim Jones, Pin the Tail, featuring Max B. Classic. Classic. All right, so where we at? 1, 2, 3. Let's do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, one more time. This probably is not the best first project to come out the gate with because it's a bit abstract. But I think if I do a good enough job, it should be pretty understandable what I'm trying to achieve here. But let's see. I'm not sure. This wine's getting the best of me, so let's just go forward. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the idea is to kind of mash this up. Actually, this might be a little bit too much. So let's create a line that goes here. Match this. All right. Doesn't have to be exact for now. Damn, I lost my voice today. All right, this is 100%. So I'm gonna lock this layer as well. So might want to make it actually a little bit bigger. We can scale it up with the K key. So Command 0 will give us 100% view. In terms of size, this looks okay. So let's go forward. All right, bet. Starting to shape up. So I kind of eyeballed these, but to make sure they're equidistant. So this is still kind of like the sketching phase. It doesn't have to be 100%, just good enough. So the idea is that each line here represents a spectrum, which will then be represented with a slider down here, right? So so let's kind of give this some color. Cool. So imagine this is the 0. This is the starting point for any scale, so to speak. So you can start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have kind of 4 steps. And this could also represent a spectrum here as well. So this could be maybe closeness, meaning that as I scrub this to the left, it only shows me posts from people that I'm close with. And if I wanted to see extended people, like, you know, ex-colleagues from 7 years ago, I can slide this all the way to the right and see a more varied newsfeed. So here we got another one right here. I'm not sure what this is going to be yet. We have another one right here. Another one right here. Okay, so let me just add some text. Usually what I like to use is Roboto. It's a great font. But let's say this is intimacy. Not in a social sense, not like a physical sense or nothing like that. So if this is the intimacy axis, this could be the, let's see what I had here earlier. This could be the popularity axis. These are a little bit too big, so I'm going to knock them down to 14. I'm going to make them regular. This could be agreeableness. I like that. Or variety, maybe. The copy is not final. It's subject to change, but this could be sentiment, although that's not a spectrum. But the idea is that if I wanted to see more popular posts, I slide this thing up. If I wanted to see less, I slide it all the way down. Same with intimacy. So you kind of start picking up on the fact that these here are actually spectral axes. I might give it a bit of a darker line just to differentiate them a little bit. So I'm not sure what this is going to be yet, but I guess the big idea is that if you have enough unique points, the next step is to connect them. And this is called the radar chart in data visualization. So what you end up with is a unique geometric shape that represents those settings that you've picked. So here, let's just finesse this really quick. Boom. So what you want to do is you want to add a fill, the exact same color as these dots. And then what you want to do is you want to go to the fill and drop it down to like 10 to 15%. So let's do 15. Actually, let's do 25. So you can kind of see this geometric shape here starting to form. And this shape represents the unique profile, right? So if you imagine by default, Facebook's algorithm might have this might be the default, right? Specifically for you, right? So this is Joe Schmo's algorithm preferences that Facebook thinks, keeps you most engaged and staying with the platform longer than the next person. So this might be your unique profile, but the next person might look actually completely different, right? The variety might be all the way tuned back and etc., right? So I started this project with the idea of having a feature that works on two levels, like I said earlier, which is to expose your profile. Like, I want to know, what does Facebook think I like? I know like Instagram, which is actually Facebook's property, they have some similar feature where you can go to an ad, I think, and you can click or not an ad, I think you can go in your settings in Instagram, and there is a way to see what Instagram thinks you're interested in. So I'm not sure how, let me check real quick. Open Instagram. So if you go to your profile page on Instagram, hit the little 3 hamburger menus in the upper right hand corner, go to settings, and then go to ads, and then add activity, I think it was. Nope, that's not it either. So somewhere in these settings is buried a list of all the topics and subjects that Instagram thinks you like. So you might see politics, jeans, traveling, you know what I mean? So this is something along those lines, right? Like, I really want to expose and see and visualize something as intangible or abstract as an algorithm's preference. So let's tune this back a little bit. Oh, Lil Kim, lighters up, man. This is like sophomore year of high school. This is crazy. Yeah. So, okay. Popularity, variety, intimacy, maybe closeness is a better term. So this is definitely one way to do it. So we still have 2 parameters that I'm not sure, but the idea here is that you're not going to actually drag these nodes on the graph. This is purely for illustrative purposes. So if you wanted to tweak these, there is a much more usable way, and that is the following. You have a slider and just a basic, straightforward slider UI that is going to achieve the same thing. So let's go at 100%. All right, we can make this, let's keep it as is. So if you look at this, we have 1 step, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we want to do is we want to duplicate this 3, 4, 5. Next up, you want to go to the end of the slider. Let's see how, let's just make it 196. We're going to select all of these and evenly distribute them. You're going to do tidy up. All right, close enough, I suppose. We're still sketching, so it doesn't have to be 100% accurate. Okay, cool. So next step is to kind of make this a bit nicer. So what I want to do is I want to lock this and make it like half the size at like 8. I want to make it like really subtle here. Cool. And then I'm going to take one of these. So essentially, it kind of snaps, right? So this is a much more appropriate user interface solution than a free range slider, because if you just had like a free for all slider where you could literally pick this up and drop it at any point, that's not really clean, right? Because you want to map these 5 stops to these 5 stops. So yeah, it's a much better solution to have it snap into place. Cool. Let me just kind of make this the same color. Nah, too dark. Cool. We'll leave it like that for now. Next up is you want the label to match, right? So you have popularity here. You want to have popularity right here. So the idea is that the user actually interacts with these sliders as opposed to, going up here and dragging. That could work too, but I think it's just not as clean. So with that being said, let's create a little component. So some things you got to have is the actual label. I think this might be confusing for a lot of people, so it's always good to have some sort of an informational link that takes you to a dedicated knowledge base. So we could have like learn more. We could underline it. Let's do this. Let's hit it at like 11. Now that I'm looking at it, it's not. Okay, maybe it'll work. Just want to bring down the contrast a little bit. Cool. Next stop is we probably want to have some indication below these that this is going from less to more or something of the sort. Maybe, let's see, let's try this. Less. Let's get rid of the underline. More. Maybe 15. Okay. So next step is I'm going to take all this, even them out. So I'm going to take all this, and this is like I guess more of an advanced thing, but I'm going to create a component in Figma. So components are great because I need 5 of these things, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this 1, 2. Oh, let me lift it up a little bit. So a component is your best friend. This was going to save you a shitload of time. So 2, 3, 4, 5. The cool thing is that if I change one, like let's say I wanted to come back a little bit later and say, you know what, this dot really doesn't look right, or the color of this text, I want it to be blue. If I were to jump in here and I wanted to make this blue, I would have to then select each individual one and then change their color to blue, right? The good thing about components is that you can just go to this text here, and not only can you universally change the color and you can see it reflected, but you can actually grab the position of it now, and I can shift the position for all 5 simultaneously. Lifesaver. So I'm gonna go back here, and now I have 5 of these things. Other cool feature is that I can move them up a little bit, and then I can play with the spacing between them. So I'm gonna find something that looks right. 15 looks a bit much for the header, so I'm gonna go and change it to 14, and you can see they uniformly just changed to 14. There's other ways like text styles and etc., but I don't think I'm gonna go that far because this is still like essentially just a sketch. So this is kind of shaping out to be something that that is interesting. I'm actually gonna get rid of this dot because I'm gonna plot individual ones. But so let's say popularity here is at 1 to if this is 0 or 1, actually this is an important distinction we have to make, but essentially it's at 1, 2, 3. So we can move it over here. 3. Closeness is maxed out, and we're gonna max out the closeness as well. Cool. Variety is at 1. I guess this is variety too. We haven't named it yet. And then the other one is at 4. Cool. So you're starting to get the idea here that a user can come in and quickly tweak individual settings. Not feeling it. I think the spacing is a bit off, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to bring that to 12. Maybe bring this down, or up rather. See how it feels. So one thing that I think throws me off a little bit is that it's getting busy, and the learn more is really getting in the way here. It's 2 words, adds a lot of complexity. So my thought is, well, what if as opposed to a learn more, we just had an informational sign? So these are pretty common. I think it's a pretty established convention in UI to have these like hover states. I'm sure you've seen these everywhere. Essentially, it's just the letter I, usually italic. So once again, placeholder for now, but so the cool thing is now that we got these components is that you could take learn more, and you can see you can just move it out of here. Gone. Then you could take, let's make it italic medium. Then you can just grab this and just jump it in. Boom. So I think already I'm starting to like this more. Maybe. Not feeling it. Not feeling it. So a big part is really just toying around with the UI. Once you've got the concept locked down, it really comes down to just how do you present it? How do you make it look good? Here, another constraint is that Facebook's design language. Essentially, you have to match it up. If you want to pitch this as a Facebook feature, I'm gonna have to come back a little bit later and rework the colors, right? This orange looks good, but I'm not sure if that really jives with their branding. They tend to use blue a lot. So these are little subtleties you can consider to sell your concept and make it more believable. Your goal is to make it look like it belongs to Facebook, and it's got to be something that they would actually release in a sense. So I'm still sketching these things out, but I'm probably going to go back and do one pass that this blue tends to be pretty dominant, so I'll try to explore that. So this is definitely one variation here. Still not clear enough for me. I think it's kind of just busy. These things are kind of clashing against each other. And what I usually do is when I get stuck at something, I usually just bounce back and go to another area of the product that I can work on. So right now, I'm kind of stalling out with the slider thing. It tends to make sense, but I'm just not happy with the way the UI is turning, and that's okay. You could always revisit it. The skeleton is kind of down already, so we've captured the skeleton, and we can move on to something else. So another idea I had is that I want to try out is that what if this was a sentimental profile? And what I mean by that is every post on Facebook, love, humor, wow, anger, sad, those little emojis. There's, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There also happens to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pentagon sides. So what if there was some sort of like an emotional profile where I could select the amount of like happy posts versus sad versus amusement versus humor. That's an interesting experiment. That's also probably worth doing. So I'm going to go and open a browser, and I'm going to go to Google Images. I'm going to try to get some JPEGs of the actual emojis that they're using. So let's see, Facebook. Okay, so I'm seeing 6 emojis as opposed to 5. I don't know if that's actually true. So I'm going to go on my Facebook. Let me see. Come on. 1, 2, 3. No, it's 5. Okay, so cool. So this must be old. I think I found one right here. So copy image. Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 5 copies of this. And I'm going to use a mask to cut these things out. So first I'm going to measure how big they are. It looks like they're 176 pixels or so. I'm going to send this to the back. And I'm going to start with this. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go ahead and mask it out. Cool. Then what we could do is we could double click. And this emoji, I think, actually was, I don't know if this is ongoing. Yeah, this must be an old JPEG because this doesn't exist anymore. So this is definitely a real one. They still use this. Crunk music, the Diplomats. Damn, that's another throwback. Yo, I don't know if I can play these songs on here. They'll probably get taken down, I'm guessing, for copyright, but you guys should go on Spotify and throw on crunk music just to vibe out. Alright, so let's click the lips. Anger, there we go. That's one right here. So young pox to the public and me. One word to describe me. Yes. I pop it slow. You rock and roll like Bon Jovi. Hey. Pool full of shit. Y'all some dead son of a. Alright, cool. We got one more. The sad one. Move because we in the mood to fight. Cool. So we got all 5 right here. So the idea that I was playing with, let me duplicate them just in case. I'm going to go ahead and hit K, scale them down. So the idea was, instead of having these axes with these attributes, what if this was just like a sentiment graph that only contained the emojis? All right, still too big. So this could be love. This could be the happiness one. I guess this is amusement. This is the sad one. And then this is the angry one. So this is still kind of like a similar idea where, I like this. I like this a lot. Because this is essentially the sentiment, like Newsfeed sentiment. So you could probably just see that I'm sketching around. I'm not even sure what direction to go in. I'm just kind of exploring the ones that look promising. This could be, I think, actually really interesting. So right now, if you look at this profile, you can see that it tends to be serving more angry stories that evokes negative emotions out of you. Stories that are going to make you cry, really sad stories, are really overrepresented. Amusement, not so much. Hilarious ones are also represented. Also, actually, let's swap these positions maybe. Or actually, no, let's leave it as is. So you kind of get the idea here is that it brings transparency to what kind of emotions or sentiment is being represented in your feed, and then lets you, interestingly enough, tweak it. So for example, if I don't want to see anything sad, I can crank this all the way down to 0. And if I wanted to see laughing or funny posts, I can do that. So because of this experiment, actually, now, because of this test, I actually got like a really interesting idea. Presets. Presets. No, I'm not feeling this. What is this? June and Beg for Mercy. Great album, but not a good song. Man, Joel Santana's first album was amazing, man. Rumble, Young Man, Rumble. Damn. 04, freshman year. Damn. Where were we at? Yeah, presets. So like, all right, let's think this through. Okay, so I'm select all these, do detach component. So they're no longer connected to our main component. But like, what if we just add these? Rumble, young man, rumble. Right? So the idea then becomes that you have these sliders that controls the quantity of posts or the percentage of posts that are going to be displayed. So I'm liking this a lot. I'm liking this a lot for a couple of reasons. So it's funny because I started out with this sketch, right? Oh, by the way, I don't think I went through this. This is just kind of me sketching out my mental model of like topic diversity, meaning that if I'm into rap, and this every circle represents a topic of interest. If I'm into rap, if I'm into design, if I'm into movies or something, you see that there's different overlaps with different friends. But some of those friends, like one of my hip hop friends here, is like into cars, right? And he might have one other friend that I'm also friends with that is into something that I'm completely not into, right? And there's got to be this chain reaction, I guess, or this chain of topic diversity. So this is kind of me also just thinking out loud here. The purpose of this is simply just to wrap my head around it, nothing more. So you saw that I started with this. At first I had one idea to represent certain spectrums, but through exploration and just what ifs, I arrived at something like this, right? I like this a lot. And I like this because it's visual. Because, first of all, not everybody, you have to think Facebook is a super multinational product. It's used by people in all sorts of different countries and languages. So one of the problems that we might run into is that somebody that doesn't speak English, maybe popularity or closeness might not translate perfectly to a different language. So that's something to keep in mind is localization. But with the emojis, they're kind of universal, right? We have universal emotion. So here, even if you don't speak the language, if you just basically explain what's happening, I think it communicates much, much more clearly. Doesn't speak English? Oh, sorry. So one thing here that I saw is that if we use these emojis, this orange color no longer works. So it blends in too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually experiment with Facebook's blue. Oh yeah, that pops out much, much more. $15, not enough. Cool. Yeah, 50, 45 works good. So yeah, this is kind of cool, right? Like what if, and I keep saying what if, but like it's honestly like the most important question for speculative design is just what if. What if you could really see what Facebook is serving you and it was no longer a black box? So yeah. So this kind of took an unexpected turn. Now I still like this idea though up top here. I still like popularity, diversity, or variety. I'm not sure what the right word is. So these are still like really important spectrums to be able to filter and sort on. But this actually gave me the idea of presets earlier, and what I mean by that is, let me go here and unlock. Damn, this is why I'm hot. Oh, this is Mims. It's not the Wayne version. Next. Man, I think that was a Drought 3 intro, right? Anyways, so what do we got? Man, sorry, I gotta find a good song. Blueprint 2. That's hard. So, yeah, so the idea that I just had is like, what if there was presets, meaning that, let me pull this to the side here. So imagine that you could pull this apart, right? So 708, could go a little bit longer actually. So, man, is this still locked? What's going on? All right, let's create an artboard, wrap it around. So the idea that I had is like presets. So what I mean by that is like, obviously the first item would be, imagine a drop down menu, all right? So let's hit it with this. Let's give it a stroke. Damn, my voice is gone. So around the corners a little bit. Facebook has, I think, a 4. All right, so imagine that you had, by default, your newsfeed was set to personalized, or Facebook's default. I don't know. Let's call it made for you. Right, this is like language that Spotify uses. So every time something is personalized to you, made for you, I think is language that could probably work. So this is Facebook's default, right? And maybe this is what it looks like. This is what Facebook thinks that you're interested in, right? Based on your activity on the platform, you tend to like a lot of sad shit. You like angry shit, and you're not that amused at the world, right? So. Cool. That's one way to put it. So we can have a drop down here. Let's go ahead and match the color. Let's drop down a little polygon. Cool. So we got a drop down now, right? So this doesn't look good to me because it's not separated right. This is all blending together. So we gotta fix this later. I'm not sure how, but there's a couple of directions. But let me not get carried away right now. So let me do something simple. So just imagine something like this. Right, we need some sort of sectioning here to differentiate them. We also got to get rid of these. Should charge you a fee. Cool. So what if this is where Facebook started you? Facebook had you at a default, right? And then slowly, here, let's take, cool. Nope. Yeah, I messed it up. So maybe this is the Facebook default. But what if we added the presets? So for example, this drop down could be could contain things like funny, humor, hilarious. I don't know. I'm not sure what to call it, but you get the idea. Like if I come in, right, and let's call it humor for something. Or I don't know, or funny. Funny's better. So maybe the funny preset could be, let me actually here, I got a better way to do this. All right, so we're gonna have a entertaining. So if I want something entertaining, I probably don't want to be angry, right? So this is gonna be at 0. I probably don't want to be sad either, right? So that could also be at 0. I mean, you can imagine that I'm gonna move it here. This could be entertaining. Things that are loved. I mean, people tend to love entertaining stuff, so let's just, all right, we'll bump it up. We'll also include posts that are, liked somewhat. So you can imagine the profile for an entertainment newsfeed might look something like this, right? Right. If I wanted to see another profile that that was like uplifting, I don't know, could be something similar. Maybe tone this down so it's not that funny, but still just, so you kind of get the idea, right? This might be an interesting direction to move in. Now, I'm not sure if this makes sense, actually, right? But I'm going to go ahead and explore it, because that's literally what I do. 80% of the design process is just literally exploring hunches that you get. I'm not even sure what's going to come out of this. I might just scrap the whole thing completely, but entertaining, uplifting, I guess funny's an obvious one, although that, I don't know, maybe we'll just max out the humor. We'll bump this down. So you kind of get the idea here. So, this is interesting. I'm not sure it's correct, but it's interesting. This is actually my favorite moment in the design process, where these unpredicted moments, these serendipitous moments arise just through exploration, and they kind of make me sit back and just rethink the whole project entirely. I might just kill another glass of wine and sit back tomorrow and just really rethink fundamentally what this should look like, and if I'm solving it in the right way. So I'm going to go ahead and create a label here. So this is really the newsfeed sentiment. So interesting direction, but it still only explores the sentimental part of Facebook's algorithm, right? Sentiment is great. It's an interesting dimension to information, but I think I came in this project with the intention of exploring how I could increase diversity and control, how fringe of something is compared to your everyday media diet. So this is cool for sentiment, but now it's time to explore information, or I guess viewpoint diversity is probably a better terminology. So as I'm saying this out loud, like a little hierarchy is starting to form in my mind. So we definitely have, if we have the newsfeed, then we definitely have some subcategories. So we have sentiment is definitely one dimension that we're interested in. Let's do point of view diversity. So if I'm Republican and all my friends are Republican and they're posting Republican shit, there's very little chance I'm going to see anything Democratic, right? So there should be some way that I can flip a switch, Drake reference, and then I could see opposing views to mine. So this is definitely Probably the main one I actually think is what I'm interested in is the point of view of diversity. I want to be exposed to contradicting views to mine. So I haven't solved for this yet. Although the sentiment, I have a good direction. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this green here just to kind of remind myself that I've made good progress. This, however, I'm still not sure what the best UI or the best mental model is to represent diversity. Sliders make sense. And at the same time, you want to have an easy way to navigate from one to the next. Yeah, I realize it's probably not the best project to jump in because it's just so undefined. It's ill-defined at this stage. I'm not even sure what I'm trying to achieve myself, but I'm kind of reverse engineering it. I'm starting at the final UI that I had envisioned. I'm trying to work my way back to kind of fit it into a mental model that makes sense. So bear with me. In the future, it's going to be, I think, a lot more interesting and easy to follow along because I'm going to probably pick my projects a little bit better going forward. So we got the sentiment, point of diversity. So what is diversity? Like, what are the topics that people really argue about? So we have the major religion, sports, politics. And honestly, I think out of these, politics might be the most important one, to be honest. Or the most significant one in this day and age. Okay, as I'm looking at this wireframe or the snapshot of the new Facebook, I glanced over at the contact section, and this is actually an interesting reminder that people are a really important vector of information, and they're an important variable in this whole equation that I'm trying to map out here. So, how do people play into this? So this kind of makes me go back to these graphs here, which is the proximity. So if I have two people, right, I have person one, and a lot of the times you would see me just kind of do this, which is me thinking out loud. I like to sketch out loud, right? I'm essentially drawing just to make sense and to reason things out. So if you have person A and person B, right? This line represents a relationship between these people. A relationship goes both ways. So we're going to have a line connecting both of these people, right? The question is, what do people exchange? And so what are the dimensions of a relationship? So on one hand, we have information, right? You exchange info with people. It might be a post, it might be a picture, it might be a piece of news about your personal life or something entirely different. But information goes from one person to the next over a period of time. So this is really a function of information over time, right? So closeness between two people, maybe you could actually calculate as a function of the frequency of information over time. So this is frequency, right? So the more frequently people exchange information over the shorter period of time, that means they're closer. So closeness, actually. So the frequency of exchange. Okay. So if these lines here represent time, as opposed to like a topology, what does this mean? What does it mean? What if I could filter out and I could tell Facebook, show me only posts from people I've communicated with, I haven't communicated with in over a year. That might be an interesting proxy for a point of view diversity. Possibly, maybe not. So it's almost becomes like a conditional thing, where it becomes like a sentence. So something like this starts emerging in my mind. So do you remember these like ad lib things we had in school back in the day, where you have to fill in the blank? So it's like almost like Facebook, like show me posts from people I have not or have, right? So show me information of people I have or have not talked to in yeah. Okay, this is interesting. Show me posts from people I have not or have talked to in get rid of this. So this is kind of like the formula that's popping in my mind right now. I'm not sure if this would be an actual UI translation directly, but talk to in over, under, and then a function of time. So for example, year, month, week, right? And actually I skipped one right here. It would have to be like type in a number. So this is kind of interesting. Show me posts from people I have not talked to in over 2 years. or weeks. Actually, I mean, naturally, why not, right? Let's throw in days in there as well. But you get the idea, right? I'm starting to think. I guess the question is, could this sentence or could this formula bring in more diversity to the point of view in your newsfeed, right? Because think about it, right? If you haven't talked to somebody in over 2 years, you're not close to them. If you're not close to them, I think there's some statistical probability that you don't share or overlap as much beliefs or points of view in politics, sports, religion, etc. Right? That I think there's some truth to that scientifically. I remember reading stuff about frequency of interaction equating to similarity in beliefs. So this might be an interesting approach. Damn. Murder to Excellent. I swear this was off of Spotify for a while. I think Jay-Z brought it back for his 50th birthday, I think. Or maybe I'm tripping. I don't know. All right. So this is still in the works. I'm not sure what to do with this. Once again, I'm kind of stuck. And when I'm stuck, I just bounce to the next thing. So there's no shortage of things to explore here. So no need to burn out your creative energy on being stuck on something. Life's too short. So I'm going to do diversity. And I'm actually bring this down here. Okay. So these are interesting subcategories of this panel here that I'm exploring. But the question is, if you opened it and you just saw this is hella overwhelming. I mean, this is just, it looks like a little, panel for like a NASA panel or something. This is not like an everyday user interface. It's got to be simplified. So this could be nested in a submenu. So the next thing that I could work on is trying to imagine what does the initial experience look like? What does the interface look like? So I'm going to go ahead and copy this up top. And if you ever watch Hannibal, great show, by the way. If you're not watching it, you're missing out. But Will, in the beginning, the main detective would just, this is my design, and try to reimagine the circumstances of a crime scene. He would put himself in the shoes of the serial killer and recreate the whole crime scene. So this is kind of like a similar thing where you got to ask yourself, like, all right, I'm a 50-year-old lady from Bangladesh. I'm hopping in Facebook. What does this look like? Obviously, this is way too complicated. So we can't have this. We got to dumb it down. We got to simplify it. And this is almost like advanced user mode. Most people are probably not going to want to tweak with every parameter, right? So let's see if we can simplify this somehow. So first level will probably be just to expose the algorithm. It makes sense to have presets here, the more I think about it. So what if we just had, here we have these two different graphs. I'm not sure that they're mutually exclusive. I think there's probably a time and a place for both of these to exist at the same time, maybe just on different screens. So just looking at these kind of gives me the idea of creating a middle ground navigation that maybe doesn't have Yeah, maybe there's no. Maybe it's just presets up front. All right, I'm gonna group this, move it down here. All right, Facebook tends to use these little lines here. So let's just throw one on. So I think you probably need like a closing button to push this away. We could do something like this. So we could have like a close button. I'm gonna just keep it simple for now. It's the quickest way to have a close button. Just to rotate a plus sign. There you go, that does the trick. Cool. So maybe a close. Or just some sort of a placeholder here. All right. So maybe one section here could be just for like sentiment. And the name doesn't have to be as technical as like algorithm. It could be something as simple as newsfeed preferences. Okay, this is. So this is getting somewhere. All right, this could be sentiment. This could come down. Maybe custom could be one of the drop-down menus. So that could actually make sense. So if you didn't like this profile, you could just either pick a preset from the drop-down. Maybe you can have made for you. You can have, what do we have? Entertaining, uplifting, funny. Or the last one could be custom. And when you click custom, then we take you to this screen. Right, so you can kind of see that when I'm bouncing from screen to screen, at some point things kind of start tying themselves together just by the virtue of exploration. So this could be a subsection of a custom screen here. Okay, see this is getting interesting. We probably need a back button if this is going to be. Cool, we'll just have a little placeholder for now. But Actually, I don't like using this color. So logic dictates that if we have a section for sentiment, we probably maybe need one for point of view. All right, so one tweak here I'm going to make is this view panel. The resolution is 786, so I'm going to extend it a little bit. Actually, never mind. I'll just keep it as is, and I'll just shrink down the elements. But maybe this is... So let me just kind of match up the size here because I scaled the sentiment down. But maybe, just maybe, this might make some sense. I'm going to scale it down some more just because. All right. Let's see. All right, so what do we have here? So visually, I'm not feeling this at all. Elements are kind of just floating everywhere, but that's besides the point. That could always be fixed. What I'm trying to figure out is, like, does this approach even make sense? And what I'm kind of playing with right now is to see if I can get away with having only two sections. Does that make sense? Point of view diversity, maybe. I don't know what to call it, but let's call it that for now. So made for you might be the sentiment, and point of view diversity might be something like moderate, right? It might be moderate. So the options might be moderate, extreme, and none, or not none, but yeah, the spectrum might be a lot smaller. So yeah, what the Casanova? Nah. Cam, loud noises. Cool. So yeah, here we have this boiled down to two sections, and I'm gonna see if this is one too many, or maybe this is not the right approach at all. So let's see if this works. Point of view, I'm not feeling it. World view diversity, I don't know. I'm not even sure, but whatever. Let's call it view diversity just so it fits here for now. All right. So in this model, what we have is two sections as soon as you open Facebook, and those sections are sentiment and your view, worldview diversity, essentially. So let me try something here because this is not working at all. So let me try to just do this and use this as a header. Do the same here. All right, man, I'm butchering this entirely, but it's just for the sake of visualization. One of the traps that I hate falling in is spending too much time with something that just doesn't matter that much. Could always be refined later. Always be refined later. So might be even worse than initially. But yeah, so essentially this is what we have. Nope. Too overwhelming. Too much going on. Too much going on. Either has to be one graph or no graphs, maybe. I don't know. But either way, there's some navigation starting to shape up here. So what you have is, you can see that this section, view diversity, leads to this screen. And then the sentiment, when you customize it, it leads to this screen. So the navigation is starting to shape up a little bit. One little hack, by the way, for Figma is that I often use the prototype feature as like a diagram, like a flow chart. And I actually don't use the prototyping for that, but just to kind of briefly visualize navigation of things. And this is what we have so far. And to sketch things out a bit further, the way this would really look is, let me get rid of these. So in reality, we would have a little section. Let's just kind of plug it in here. Let's add it as a little shortcut. So you would have you'd have newsfeed preferences, right, as a shortcut, just theoretically. Looks about right. I'm gonna block this out. Cool. So then the idea becomes, you click the shortcut, this opens up. So you go from here. If you choose to see why you're being served this delicious picture of cherry tomatoes, you click newsfeed preferences, opens up this section, which I'm not happy with. But maybe the experiment here isn't so much the UI and the way it's presented. It's just, can you get away with sentiment and view diversity? Are those the two most important things? And I don't have the answer right now. I'm gonna have to think about this and sleep on it. Maybe, maybe not. But so far, I seem to think it could be sufficient. And then from here, you can customize it further by going up top, or you can customize the world view from going down below. and playing with these sliders. One more thought that I'm going to capture here is this is a social platform. This is a social app, meaning that it might be interesting to leverage. Damn, this is actually probably the breakthrough, I think. It might be interesting to leverage what people around you are doing or knowing what their profiles look like. So, for example, Facebook might tell you 80% of the people in your state tend to have this setting of variety on 6. And that type of data might be informative, and it might be a good reference as to your world point. I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but I'm onto something for sure. So social proof in a way, not even social proof. That I feel like that's the wrong word. It's not social proofing. It's like reference. It's like social reference, letting you know how the person next to you, how your best friend sees the world in a way without actually exposing their uniquely identifiable profile, but like your community, your communal view. So let's say maybe let's capture some of this here because this is good stuff. So social proof, maybe your state or city profile tendencies. So we don't have to actually expose or average out profiles, but imagine, for example, how interesting it might be if this was like New York City, right? Like the average profile for New York City. This might be, Bulgaria. So I guess what I'm getting at, it's like, it might give you an interesting reference to see how people are choosing to see the world or being served the world views on Facebook. Definitely something here. I'm not sure what, but definitely something here. So I'm going to put this right here. Social proof profiles. But yeah, you can see a lot of this is just automatically exploring, stumbling onto something once in a blue moon, exploring that direction. And a lot of the times, they're cul-de-sacs. They're dead ends. They don't lead anywhere. But the exploration is the valuable part, because on the way to chasing a dead-end idea, you might come up with 2 other ones that actually might have some value later on down the road. So, yeah, this is definitely one of those things that I don't have to sleep on. Definitely an interesting and a touchy subject, because your algorithm, your newsfeed profile is, it's kind of personal to you, right? So this is kind of touchy. You wouldn't want to expose people's profiles and let your best friend see what you got your anger on or something. That wouldn't be ethical. But at the same time, there's a way to anonymously, maybe there is a way to anonymously enhance the perspective somebody has of his or her community, to know that, okay, I'm in a pretty pessimistic, single-minded community, and maybe that informs me of how I perceive my community members posting. Another thought that comes up is, here's Fiona Ozeri posting that there's healthy recipes, right? What if there was a little badge next to Fiona's name? Let's mock it up really quick. That, and this badge let me know that Fiona has, how should I phrase it? She is on the default profile, or do you know what I mean? She hasn't tweaked her parameters yet. Yeah, I'm not sure how to phrase it, but the idea is to differentiate people that are running on custom settings, maybe. The question then becomes like, is this piece of information going to be helpful? Like if this was a crazy conspiracy post on Alex Jones and I saw that this is somebody who's running on a custom parameter, does that change my perception of the information they're presenting? Maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but I got a lot to think about. A lot to think about. By the same token, like, what if these people here, what if they had a little badge and, okay, a circle's probably not the best idea because it's just, Facebook already has too many circles, but yeah, what if these people had some sort of a badge that let me know that, okay, this guy's running, Dennis Hahn is running with a custom profile. Eric Jones is on yet another profile, right? Maybe green is custom. This bluish is, I'm sorry, maybe green is default. This bluish is lavender is custom. So the question is, does that change the way I perceive their posts? Okay, so this is getting more interesting the more I think about it. Okay. So badging. So, okay, so here we have a differentiation between people with a custom profile and a default profile. To be honest, I don't think that's actually a good distinction at all. But let's see, default. Let's type in default profile versus custom or tweaked, right? I don't think this is a good distinction. I actually don't find it particularly helpful either, but I'm going to go ahead and capture it anyways. The next question is, well, what is an interesting or meaningful distinction? What if you got a badge for having the widest possible setting on worldview diversity, whatever that is, right? So meaning that you desire a well varied media diet from all your friends that are, pro-Trump, anti-Trump, anti-Biden, right? Just all over the place. So a badge for max variability. That is definitely something that's interesting and could be meaningful, right? So maybe not everybody gets it. So yeah, maybe people that are open to being exposed to the widest amount of information get a little star, right? So when you see somebody with a star, you're like, oh damn, this is an open-minded person, right? That might be interesting, right? Obviously, I'm just kind of using symbols here brashly, but you get the idea, right? So now when I look at this list and I look at this star and I start thinking of badging, one thing that comes to mind, or one realization that I have, like, how crazy is it? I'm gonna get rid of these badges. How crazy is it that I don't know these people outside of their names. Presumably, like I've met them before, I've added them, but I'm not sure if they're how active they are. I'm not sure how informed they are. I'm not sure how open they are. I don't know anything about them, right? For all I know, some of these people, like, might be a bot or something. So badging definitely seems like an interesting way to add an additional informational layer to people. To give me some context, like Fiona Ozeri is saying that this is great, healthy recipes. Um, is she like a GMO nut? Is she one of those super healthy, obsessed people? Maybe she's a I mean, obviously this is about healthy recipes, but what if this was like a political event and she was like an avid Alex Jones supporter or something? Like, I feel like badging is a really interesting direction to let people self-identify as fill in the blank. Maybe they're well, damn, can't even think straight. Not they're well read, but they're just open to new information, etc. So badging is definitely something that I'm going to explore a little bit more overnight. Social proof is also something. This is another area. And I'm going to see if this makes sense. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. Probably going on like 2 hours or something. I don't know. Yeah, damn. Going on that. It's almost 2 hours. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to come back today, tomorrow, and flesh this out a little bit more. The next step would be to prototype it. I might prototype it in I'll probably will flesh out the prototype in Figma. I might jump into a more advanced app and share that process with you as well. In the meantime, I'm going to go and think over some of these decisions. Wine definitely helps. So does sleep. I'm going to sleep on it. I'm going to come back, revisit, and pick up where we left off. Yeah. If you made it through, wow. If not, I'll see you next time.